Today marks the first day that NFL franchises can franchise players. Some big names are possibly out there, but one that I think we all know, Lamar Jackson, is going to be at the top of that list. Joining me today to talk about all this is Ryan Holt. He is the host of the Rational Hour podcast. Please check it out. Just talking everything free agency, where some of these quarterbacks may end up. Thank you for joining Big B Sports Talk. Let's get into it. All right, thanks Ryan for joining us today, man. Let's get into this NFL, this free agency stuff that's going on right now, or is about to start kicking off, I should say. The quarterbacks, man, it is just crazy what is going on with these quarterbacks. I mean, where they're going. I mean, today Daniel Jones, for some odd reason, thinks that he's worth $45 million. He came out with something today, basically saying, "I'm not taking anything less than $45 million." I'm like, come on, man, you're not worth that. The Giants can't sign him for $45 million a year, can they?
I can't see it. They got to deal with Saquon as well. Daniel Jones just doesn't have enough body of work. I love what Brian Dable's been able to do with him and his growth, but I don't think it's at that level to where you would pay him that amount of money so quickly. I would have to see more before I give him that type of incentive.
Absolutely, yeah. I just, he had a good year this year. So, and
Yeah.
you can even say that he had bad coaching the previous years that he was
Hmm.
there, but it's not enough body of work, man. I mean, at some point, these owners got to take a stand and say, look, we're not going to pay mediocre quarterbacks top dollar, because when you do that, you can't win. You
Can't
literally
win.
can't win.
It's too much invested.
Yeah, you got way too much invested in this average quarterback, and you still have to put all these pieces around him for him to be effective. The perfect example of that is the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott.
Exactly. And kind of with Kyler Murray in Arizona, I thought they kind of jumped the gun with him.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if I would have gave him that much right away. But yeah, that shows you how important a quarterback is to a franchise. But you got to be smart about it and know what you're investing in. And we see it with Lamar, of course. And
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that's a real kind of hot button issue, Brian, in the NFL, especially after Deshaun Watson got all that guaranteed money. I
Yep.
mean, it really hamstring a franchise when you take that type of investment and you put that much money on the books for one position.
Absolutely. And the thing about Lamar is, first of all, I don't think Lamar plays 1 second under a franchise tag. I don't think he's going to do that,
Mm.
because I think Lamar just said when he got hurt last year, I think he could have come back, but I think he's like, you know what? I'm not risking another second until you guys pay me or I go somewhere else. I'm not doing anything to help you until you help me. So as far
Yeah,
as Lamar is concerned, he's not playing under that franchise tag. On the flip side of that, though, I'm gonna say this. I know people like what he's doing. Lamar needs an agent, man. Lamar Jackson's
yeah.
got to get an
I don't
agent.
know if Mom's is right.
Yeah, I mean, we all love our moms. We do. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you got to be able to go out and facilitate deals with other teams to be able to get
Yes.
you the money. And I'm sorry, she don't have those kind of relationships, or at least from what it seems, she doesn't have those kind of relationships, because otherwise, more pieces would be moving. You know what I'm saying?
Moving. Right, exactly. Guys try to do this, not everybody can be Ray Allen and be their own agent and have
No.
family. Sometimes you got to get that Lee Steinberg or that any type of representation that knows how to business and deal
Yeah.
with these GMs. It's really important.
I mean, it's huge. It's huge. Like like you said, Lee Steinbergs, the Tom Condons. Those guys
Yeah.
that they especially at the quarterback position. I mean, those guys specialize in those deals. And it's
Yes.
just like, look, man, I know you don't want to give somebody else this money, but at the
Mm.
same time, look, sometimes you just got to pay somebody to do some work for you. Just
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
pay the gardener, or
Right.
you pay somebody to clean your house. At some point in time, you got to pay somebody to do some work for you, and this just happens to be he's got to go a different route, because
You got to
it's
go a
killing
different
him,
route.
man. It's killing him, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this unfolds, man, because that's what everyone's waiting to see how this ball drops with the tag and what
Yeah,
Lamar's gonna do, what Baltimore's gonna do. Because I know other teams are licking their chops to see if they can get Lamar over in South Beach or Vegas.
right.
These other franchises that need that might be looking at him to their team.
Absolutely. And there's some teams that think, hey, man, if we can get him in or somebody in, we are real close. For instance, like the Jets. The Jets
Hmm.
brought in David Carr the other day. I think the Jets, for what they got, the Jets are not that far away. I think if they just get first of all, if they just had competent quarterback play last year, they make the playoffs. I'm not
Yeah,
talking spectacular or really good. I just think if
yeah,
they had competent quarterback play last year, they win another
hmm
2 or 3 games and they make the playoffs.
easily,
Yeah,
easily. They're one. They're That's the missing piece for the Jets. Their defense is stacked. I think they have really good defense. And the offense is turning the corner. They need a general. They need somebody in the center. Wilson just doesn't seem like that guy.
no,
So I think they need to look at. I think they are looking in that direction, most definitely. So if they can get somebody like Derek Carr, possibly Aaron Rodgers, a veteran, somebody like that, will be huge for that team. I think Coach Saleh is a great defensive coach. He just needs the offense, somebody to steer the ship,
absolutely.
drive the car, not wreck it.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of movement too, Ryan, in free agency. I think there's going to be some trades and stuff that happen on like draft day trades that
Hmm.
happen. There's going to be a lot of movement because there's quarterbacks that are available that usually aren't available, this time of
Right.
year. They have a good draft class of quarterbacks as well, but the available quarterbacks, like I know the everybody's waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They're
Right.
waiting to see what he's going to do. And, my personal opinion, look, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, same dude. They both held the Packers hostage,
Mm-hmm.
for 3+ years on I'm gonna retire, I'm not gonna retire, I'm gonna retire, I'm not.
Mm,
I'm just like, you know what? Just go away. Just if you just go away. But he's not gonna go away because he's not gonna
right.
leave $60 million sitting on the table. That's
On
not
the
gonna happen,
table.
man.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of dominoes that need to fall. Tell me what you think of as far as that domino effect of quarterbacks and how you think all the not necessarily where they're going to go, but how you think it may play out.
Well, the first one, Brian, I really feel like is the tag with Lamar. People want to see what happens because I think teams might try to call and see if they can get him over to their franchise. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers, he said he's going to do like a 2 week hiatus where he's going to meditate and decide. I think his feelings are a little hurt with the franchise. Supposedly, he wasn't happy didn't kind of keep him in tune with what their decisions are. So, and then also he thinks they might be ready to go with the young kid
Right.
at quarterback. So I think they paid him a lot of money, so they got to figure out what they're going to do.
Sure.
And it's really a lot of buzz on social media with the Raider fans, and of course Devontae Adams going at talking at the Pro Bowl, saying he's recruiting them. A little post here and there with him and Aaron golfing and things like that. So
Right.
it makes sense with the Raiders to go after him and the Jets, obviously, like we discussed. So I think those are the two really is Lamar and Rodgers would be those two dominoes.
Right.
I think it'd be very quickly because I think these teams want to know before the draft, during
Absolutely.
free agency, so they know which direction they have to go in. So for to get ready for the team in the fall.
Right. And it makes it exciting because, they opened up the franchise tags as of today, and you
Hmm.
have until March 7th to decide who you're going to franchise, So,
Hmm.
I mean, there's no way that the Giants franchise Daniel Jones, do you think?
Man, I I kind of do and I kind of don't, but I think Coach Dable likes him a lot. He
Right.
kind of really put his fingerprints on him and kind of molded him into the quarterback everyone thought he would be, kind of sort of coming out of Duke.
Right.
And it just I think it really depends on him and if he can get the GM to believe in him and say, hey, let's tag him and keep him. I think it really Saquon is going to be a big part of that.
Right.
So the money, I don't know if he get what he wants, but I think they might tag him. I'm not sure. That's a tough one to call.
See, the thing about they're in a situations like Saquon's want 12.5 million. The Giants can't
Mm.
pay him that. You can't. I mean, the days of
That
running
would
backs getting that kind
wow.
of money these days.
Yeah.
You're just not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I
Not if you're
think
trying to
McCaffrey
win.
gets what does McCaffrey get? 11. That would make him the highest paid. I
Yeah,
think him and Jacobs are going to be the ones that
yeah,
everyone try to go after.
correct,
And I think Saquon's nice, but his health would really concern me. And he's had
correct.
some real injuries, but he's so explosive and he's a great player when he's on the field. But I don't know if I would give him 12 million. That's a little bit
No,
much.
that's high. That's high. And
Yeah,
that's the
that's
thing. It's like you pay these quarter at some point, the owners, I think, are going to take a stand and just stop
yeah,
paying. I know we talked about it. These quarterbacks, they're going to stop paying mediocre quarterbacks top dollar.
top
Because
dollar.
for so long it was, okay, well, this quarterback's up. We got to pay him. Well, this quarterback's up. We got to pay him. And I'm like, you have to pay him, but you don't have to pay him and make him the highest paid quarterback in the history of the league and just keep
Break the
going
bank.
down that road. You don't have to do that, man. And I think the more owners at some point, owners and GMs got to just stand up and say, we're not doing it. Okay, we want you. We think you're great, but you know what? I know that 45 million is a top dollar. Take 26 and
Right.
live with it. And I go, but if you, I mean, again, it's just like I said, it's like the whole Dak Prescott effect. I mean,
Hmm.
Cowboys paying him $45 million. There ain't no way in the world that man has produced enough to be paid $45 million, and then you can't pay all these other people because he's a mid quarterback, and
Yeah.
you have to have all these pieces in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what's funny, Brian, is a lot of franchises, from what I hear, were upset with Cleveland,
Oh yeah,
and this kind of goes back to Lamar because of what he expects because of what Cleveland did for Deshaun, guaranteeing him what 200 million,
230.
230 million. Sheesh, man, I know.
Yeah,
Just thinking about that, and so that kind of set a precedent in the league to where okay, I think Watson said, hey, I don't blame him for taking it, but now these other quarterbacks, like if he's going to get it. I want
right,
this too. So it just
correct.
kind of sets the standards, like you're saying, with these teams. They get upset because of what one team did. It affects all these other teams in negotiation.
Correct. Well, the one thing about Lamar, and he's not going to like it, the team, and he's going to be the example. They paid all this money to Deshaun Watson when it's Cleveland, though. So, that organization is horrible. They paid him all that money, and Lamar's not going to get $230 million guaranteed. He's just not. That's $85 million more than the next person. They're not going to do that.
Whew.
So he's going to have to take something less. But I
Mhm.
mean, if you can't make it work on 190 million, then that's a personal problem. You need a different financial advisor at that point. But I'm just saying, I mean, if you're trying to win and you're trying to do things the right way, I know they always say, hey, get paid as much as you can. It's the GM's job to figure it out. And that's
Mhm.
true. But at the
That's
same
true.
time, if you get 35% of the salary cap, your team is going to stink, and that's just
Hmm.
the way that it works. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that. Now, let's take a look at a quarterback and how the draft kind of ties into that. Justin Fields. What are the Bears gonna do? What are they gonna do with him?
Whew, that's the $1 million question, Brian. I mean, Poles was at the Senior Bowl. Along with Eberflus, they're really looking into this.
Yeah,
Initially at the end of the season, Poles mentioned he had to be blown away to not to take a quarterback.
right.
So I think he's happy with Fields. There's a lot of smoke about them possibly trading Fields and going after Young. I just don't see it because they have so many holes to fill. I think they keep Fields and draft a defensive player, maybe Will Anderson or Carter, I believe the young man from Georgia. I think that's the smart move. But I think it would be even smarter to trade down, maybe with the Colts or Houston,
Right. That's
if they want to
exactly what
swap
I was gonna
picks.
say, man. You got to trade.
Yeah,
They have so many holes. Just what you mentioned. Get picks. Trade with. The Colts are gonna take a quarterback. They gotta have a quarterback. Trade with
yeah,
them. Get you an extra 2 or 3 picks and build your roster. You invested some time already in Fields. You know he's got something. Give him something to
yeah,
work with. Give him a
yeah,
receiver. Give him an offensive line. Just give him something to work
yeah.
with. Because right now, what he's got, man, I mean, nobody can do anything with what he's working with out there.
what do you think of Fields? Like, some people say his accuracy is atrocious, but I don't think he's really had the outside weapons yet. And this is his first year under, I think it's Gotsi is their OC.
Yeah,
Eberflus is kind of more of a defensive guy. So
correct.
I think I like what he was using, how he was using Fields, and his obviously he ran the ball extremely well, but his passing game, I don't think his receivers were that great to begin with.
Nope.
Mooney is solid, but besides him, I think they have Pettis and St. Brown. Not really a real go-to
They got a bunch of
receiver.
number
Claypool,
3 receivers.
yeah, Claypool can I think potentially. I love his upside, and he had some good years under Roethlisberger. And I think if he can become that guy, I think potentially, I think Claypool has a lot of potential. I know
See,
you're a
I am.
Steeler.
Yeah, I'm a
You
Steeler.
saw
I'm out.
saw Claypool firsthand, right? What do
I'm
you?
out. Yeah, I was so glad they traded Claypool. We fleeced Chicago in that
Yeah,
deal. We'll take a second
second.
round pick for him.
Mm,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't. I mean, I'm
that's.
not saying he's terrible,
Hmm.
but at max, he's a number 2 receiver at
Okay,
max. But he
so
didn't do
Claypool, Mooney.
anything. I mean, get him in the system and see what he can do this year. But I think you're right, though, Ryan. They got to keep, as far as his passing, they just got to keep
Hmm.
Fields, work with him, and get
Hmm.
some better weapons. As far as
Better
his
weapons.
accuracy is concerned, he's still, I think he's learned. First of all, he's a little gun shy because the line can't block for him. So he's a little
Right.
gun shy. But two, he's under the okay, I'm waiting to see the guy get open and throwing the football. You can't do that in the NFL.
The
You got to
window.
anticipate the
Yeah.
guys being open or throw them open. And he
Hmm.
hasn't been able to do that. But part of that, you got to have receivers that are running
Hmm.
crisp routes and be able to get at least some separation. So
Right.
we'll see. We'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, his passing is, it leaves a lot to be desired at this point.
Hmm.
But I think if you get him something to work with, I,
Yeah.
I think he would be a lot better, man. I think he would be a lot
So
better.
if you're the GM, you hold on to Fields and keep progressing in the right direction with him. Help him out. Get him some talent. Don't give up on him.
Absolutely. Nope. I don't
Okay.
give up on him. I don't give up on him.
Yeah.
I think we've seen enough to know that we have something.
Yeah.
Now let's, because you remember with David Carr back when he was at
Hmm.
Houston, I don't think David Carr was that bad of a quarterback. But when you
Hmm.
get sacked that many times and get hit
Yeah.
and beat up that many times, I mean, it does something to your psyche. And
Oh
so
yeah. You hear
I
footprints. You hear. You
yeah.
hear. Yeah.
So
You
I just
hear.
think
You hear footsteps, man, and that messes with your psyche wholeheartedly as a QB. I mean, your blind side is everything. When you get blasted, man, it does something to you that you don't trust your line to protect you, and every time
absolutely.
you're looking over your shoulder. But what did you make, Brian, of the comments supposedly that Fields made about the cold weather at Soldier Field?
I mean, he's got a point, but my man, you play in Chicago. If you
Right.
don't like it, then okay, that's fine. But you're there now. I thought it was
Hmm.
tacky. Look, people have been
Hmm.
playing now. There, like I said, there's some validity to it because if you think about it, when was the last time that Chicago really had a good quarterback? I mean, just a
Man,
good quarterback.
man, it's hard to say. Like,
Yeah,
good quarterback. Uh, not Cal Otten, but what was the other? They went with Rex Grossman to the bowl, right? The Super Bowl. That
they
was
did, but I
'06.
mean, he wasn't
Yeah.
good. I mean, they had Cutler.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jay
it's
Cutler.
been you can't think
Yeah.
of the last time that they've really had
Yeah.
a good, solid quarterback. I mean, if you want to call Cutler that, okay, fine. But
He was decent
yeah,
to good. But again, how we talked about with EB, supposedly his personality didn't mesh well with the
correct.
guys. And quarterback, you got to be the leader of men.
Absolutely.
You got to
You can't
be able
have
to
that
grab,
quirky
get that huddle.
personality as a
Yeah,
quarterback. You
yeah.
can't
You
be that
can't
guy.
be kind of separating yourself from the pack. You got to be that guy.
Exactly. So I don't I just think there's some validity to what he's saying, but you can't
Yeah,
say that publicly, man. You can
yeah.
think
That
it.
really shocked me. I was
Yeah, I
like,
mean, you
no,
just
no,
can't say
no.
that. I
Yeah,
want a
because
dome. Or
that's the
just say you want
coldest.
a dome. Just say, hey man,
Yeah, just
playing
leave
in
it
a
at
dome
that.
is great. I think we should get one. I mean, he could
Yeah,
have
Kurt.
could have packaged that
That's
so much better as,
better.
hey,
Yeah,
Chicago, we need a Super Bowl here. So if we want a
yeah,
Super
something like
Bowl,
that.
we need to get a dome. But instead, just to say that, I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Like,
because I know Kurt Warner mentioned that all the NFL should be played indoors.
right,
But
right.
that's tough, man. I mean, that's to say that that's a huge thing. Football is kind of like that. That's old school. Some people say that you have to play in cold weather and home field advantage, cold weather. But it
Exactly.
would make a difference if it were all NFL games indoors. Man, that would make the
It'll make
best
a
team
huge
definitely.
difference.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
The
I
way you
think
draft, the way you scheme.
eventually it will probably go that route.
You think so?
I don't know if it'll be in our lifetimes, but I
Mm-hmm.
think eventually it's going to go that route, except for maybe in the warm weather stadiums, like in
States.
Tampa
Yeah.
or Miami. I mean,
Miami.
they don't need a
Mm,
dome. But
yeah.
you say that Arizona has a dome. So,
Yeah.
but then again, you get down there when it's 110, trying to
Yeah.
play. So,
Yeah. Those first couple games of the year are baking out there.
absolutely. So wrap this thing up, man. And again, I appreciate you joining us today, man. Um, Next year, early, way too early predictions on the Super Bowl. Who do you got?
Man, you can't count out Kansas City as long as you got Mahomes and Andy Reid. They're kind of like the Walsh Montana, that just a great duo working together. So
Right?
you got to keep them in there. I love the Bengals. We talked about this before on previous shows, but I love Burrow. I love Chase. I think that combination will be thriving for years to come.
Yep.
And their defense is sneaky good.
Yes, it is.
I really like Cincinnati. I like Kansas City. In the NFC, uh, it's really interesting with the Eagles. I love Jalen Hurts. I think they're still going to be great. AJ Brown was a great draft day pickup for them.
Yep.
Their defense, I think, will still be there, even with losing both their coordinators. I think they'll be okay because the talent is there.
Correct.
I really like the Eagles for years to come. I think their future is looking really bright. Another team, the 49ers. I still think you talk about a player away. I think if they can finally get that QB situation under wraps, if
Right.
they stay with Purdy, um, I'm not sure with Lance if he's going to be able to recoup and get that spot back. But whatever quarterback they have, I think Shanahan does a good job keeping that offense to where
Absolutely.
the quarterback can thrive, not have to do too much, and just have pretty good moving parts around it. So those two teams in both conferences, I really liked kind of as early favorites. As far as dark horses, two teams I would say in the AFC, I like Miami. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what they're doing, but it's kind of the same situation where they need to get Tua healthy and strong mentally. He has some things that he needs to get going as far as concussions and things like that. Hopefully, he stays healthy and they
Right.
protect him enough to where he can play a full season. But if they do move in that direction, I think that team is right there to be successful. NFC, I really like Detroit. I think
A lot of people like
Campbell's doing a
Detroit.
great job. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Campbell's done a phenomenal job, man. I wasn't too sure about what them when they hired him, but I like his bravado, just what he brings to that locker room, his energy, and the
Guys
guys
play
seem to
hard
love
for him.
to play for him. I love their offensive line.
Yep.
Defense is getting better under Glenn. I think he's doing the right things. So those are two teams and two dark horses that I like in both conferences.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of my mix. Obviously, I'm a diehard Steeler fan. I'm gonna throw them
Mm.
in there a little bit as far as a surprise team because I think that Baby Hands Pickett is gonna take another step forward, and I like him. I was on the
Yeah.
record not liking him. I think he's gonna be okay. Um,
Hmm.
but I like the same teams basically that you. I think who's gonna take a big step back. I think Minnesota. I think
Mm.
Minnesota takes a huge step back. All those games that they won, either last second, one score games at the end,
Oh
they won
yeah, it was
all of
good.
those games this year. Even if they just win half of them next year,
Yeah.
that's an 8-win football team, man. I just and their defense is still bad. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that defense works, and they're getting a different defensive coordinator, so we'll see how that all that works out. A team that I think is going to be sneaky good in the AFC is Denver. Watch out
Mm.
for Denver. I think Sean Payton is going to fix the problems with Russell Wilson.
Mm.
And depending on who the defensive coordinator is, and they're talking about Rex Ryan, if
Hmm.
they can figure that out with Russell Wilson, I think the Broncos can be sneaky
Yeah,
good, man. I
that's
really, really do. I don't think Wilson's lost it
mm,
yet.
okay. That's a good
So,
one.
yeah, I think that he can be fixed, or just the offense as a whole can be fixed. So, Watch out for Denver. Well, man, thank you. I appreciate you joining and taking the time. We will absolutely bring you back as soon as possible and try to get you on as much as possible, man. We have some fun together, man.
Hey, thank you, Brian, man. I appreciate it, man. And you know I'm here anytime, man. I love chopping it up with you, man, and just picking your brain on certain takes. And yeah, man. Until next time, man. I can't wait.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.